Okay, so tonight we're going to be talking about protein power up, how we can achieve our goals with the right amount. So you've probably heard the word protein so many times. I know if you're working with me, you hear it all the time. And whether you have a specific health goal or just want to maintain overall health, the word protein is all over food packages, supplements, grocery stores. We hear it everywhere. And you might be thinking to yourself, what is protein? Why should I be consuming it? How much should I be having? And how can it help me reach my goals? Tonight, we're going to talk about all these things and different ways that we can do to help achieve our lean body mass goals and just our overall health goals. So as you guys all know, since I've spoken to all of you before, we are partnered with Healthy Steps Nutrition, and we use their framework that's guided, tested, and proven. We believe that something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated, which is why we focus on the habit-based approach. We know that helping you become your best and healthiest version of yourself isn't just about a few hours in the week at the gym. We also need to focus on nutrition, stress management, mindset, support system, and lifestyle. And we know that while this is all simple, it's far from easy. With all the misinformation out there regarding the best diets, the best foods, the best exercise, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed at times and ready to give up. But don't worry, that's why we're here to help. So let's get started with talking about protein. So, do you guys know when we talk about protein within our diet, what do we typically mean? Does anyone know? Or I should say this, what are the three macronutrients that we kind of look at? Carbs, fiber, protein, close. So you got two of them, carbs and protein. Vegetable fiber, that's important. That's with carbs. So carbs and fiber and veggies, those are all in that carbs section. But carbs, protein, and fats, those are our three major macronutrients that we look at. So when we're calculating your calorie needs, we're looking at different diets, we're looking at specific amounts of those macronutrients to make up all those calories. And protein's one of those. So protein is one of our three major nutrients that provide the body with energy. It's made up of smaller molecules called amino acids. I'm sure you guys have heard that term too through exercising is just amino acids. You see products called branched chain amino acids or essential amino acids. People take those to really help with building. There's different benefits of those. But these amino acids are linked and strung together by chemical bonds like beads on a chain. So why are they important? Well, they make up about 75% of your body. So throughout the day, the body consistently breaks down and builds up new proteins. A good example of this is during exercise, protein is broken down. We know when we are resting and refueling, it's building up or being synthesized. So that's why we do our build and our recover. Um, Being that in the US, more than 87% of deaths are due to chronic disease, we need to highlight that proteins are used for so much more than muscle growth. They play a huge role in managing and preventing chronic disease. So they also help with, so they build and repair. They help facilitate enzyme function. One other question is whey versus soy. We'll get to that. So they facilitate enzyme function, hormone regulation, they support immune function, weight management and satiety, and bone health. Super, super important. We use it all the time, especially in the hospital with wounds. When you go through any chronic or acute thing we're looking at, so like an acute event, we look at our protein needs. Sometimes we need super, super high needs. Sometimes we need to be mindful of our protein needs. If you have a wound, super, super high for that building. So there's lots of really important benefits that protein does. So whether you're aiming to build muscle, to decrease your body fat, or maintain your well-being, protein needs to be a staple in our diet. So protein is unique compared to fat and carbohydrates, which are those other two macronutrients, because the body doesn't store it. This means it's essential to eat enough protein every single day. Individual daily protein needs vary depending on age, sex, activity level regimen, your weight, etc. If we set a goal, though, of about 30% of our calorie intake for the day, so what we would put our calories at, if you do 30% of those and make that your protein goal, that's a good place to start. And then you can work with myself or another member of the GC Healthy Living team to really fine tune those numbers. And I usually like to give ranges. Ranges really help us identify where our sweet spots are. Individual, oh, so now we have that starting point. So that 30% is kind of our starting place if you haven't already gotten your sweet spot by working with me or one of the other team members. We want to look at the sources. Ideally, we want to have a variety of protein sources because each protein has its own amino acid profile. So all those amino acids, there's 9 essential amino acids that we need to get through our diet every single day. And each type of protein has a slight variation of those. And there's a wide range of foods out there that we can use to help reach our protein goals. And now we're going to go into some tips as to how we can do that. So tip number 1 is choose the right type of protein. We understand why protein is essential to a balanced diet, but sometimes choosing which protein to eat can be a bit confusing. So how do we choose? We want to first start to consider our specific health goals and our overall well-being. So it's best to choose lean protein sources. They are low in our saturated fat and calories and packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. And lucky for us, there's a ton of lean animal proteins to choose from. And we will also get into plant-based proteins in those as well, so don't worry. Whole eggs are a great source of protein. They're easily absorbed and are rich in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. And in fact, eggs are one of the best sources of choline, which is super, super beneficial for our brain health, our liver health, and our metabolism. Wild-caught whitefish also tends to be lower calories and leaner cuts. You can also do salmon, which is a little bit higher in fat, but also rich in omega-3s. But if we're looking for those leaner fish, cod, flounder, haddock, in about 3 to 4 ounces, which is about the size of your palm, is about 25 to 30 grams of protein. So that's fantastic because that's, for majority of us, making up a third sometimes of our protein goals. Now, chicken breast is also a great option. I know you hear this all over the fitness world is chicken and rice or broccoli. You kind of that's the meal of bodybuilders. But it is a great staple. So chicken breast for years has been used. It's similar to the fish where about 4 ounces, so the size of your palm, is about 23 to 25 grams of protein and only about 110 calories. Here are some additional lean sources. So it's just a small list. There's plenty more, but bison, egg whites, chicken breast, turkey breast, tenderloin, wild caught fish, whitefish, venison. These are all amazing lean protein sources that can help provide your body with nutrients that it needs to thrive. And most of these can be found in the grocery store in both fresh and frozen forms. Now, tip number 2 is to include protein in meals and snacks. So shooting for about a quarter of your plate, if you've done our talks on the plate method, you want half your plate to be those non-starchy vegetables, a quarter of your plate to be those carbohydrates, those starchy carbohydrates, a quarter of your plate to be these lean proteins, and then adding some room for a little bit of fat in there. But so visually aiming for about a quarter of your plate or about the size of your palm, maybe a little bit more depending on your goals, is a great place to start. Um, Trying to get in about 1 to 2 handful sizes of protein per meal really helps meet those goals. So really, for majority of you guys, if we do like 1.5 of our hands, that's going to be about 6 ounces. That's roughly 45 grams of protein right there. So hugely beneficial in meeting our goals. Most women, I would say, need to shoot for around 90 to 100 grams of protein per day. And if we just do 2 meals with about a palm and a half size of our protein, we're at 90 grams. Like it's super easy. Then we can fill in the rest. Protein, we'll get into a couple different things, but also super beneficial in satiety. So if we're someone who really gets hungry and we're working on eating more nutrient dense meals but without overeating, protein is a fantastic option for that. You pair it with your fiber rich non-starchy vegetables, fruits, legumes, that kind of stuff. Now we've created a volume dense, super filling meal that's lower in calories. So in terms of snack, we talked about the plate method. We talked about the 30, doing the quarter of your plate or about this, a palm and a half of your serving size, but for snacks. So this can look different and it's typically in on the go. So we might struggle with that a little bit more with trying to figure out how much we need. So going back to your hand portion guide, your palm again is about 3 to 4 ounces. So for snacks, aim about half of your palm to start with and see how your body does for snacks on the go. You can include a protein to start with, but then also think about our energy levels. So we just talked about this, that satiety, keeping us full for longer, making sure we're adding to it. So those balanced meals that we talk about, adding a protein with a fiber source can really help balance out our blood sugars throughout the day. So some examples of this could be like a jerky stick with some fruit, like raspberries. That will help keep you going for a little while. This is a great way to help us get our protein goals throughout the day. So if we talked about those 2 main meals like lunch and dinner, now we're throwing in a snack, we're really adding up those numbers quickly to meet our protein goals. And having a meal or a snack every 3 to 4 hours helps break that up too. I don't recommend trying to eat like 100 grams of protein in one meal. You're going to feel bloated, you're going to feel heavy. But when we break it up every 3 to 4 hours, not only is our blood sugar happy, but our energy levels are stable, we're feeling full and satisfied throughout the day. For snacks, we're going to aim around 15 to 20 grams of protein. And for our meals, we're looking for that 30 to like 45 grams, just for like a baseline. By doing this, we're going to be, as I mentioned, feeling fuller for longer, supporting our lean muscle mass, increasing our metabolism's thermogenesis. And what that means is the body's process of producing heat in the body can actually help burn more calories over time. So it's harder to break down that protein, making your body work a little bit more. All right, so here are some more snack options, just to give you some ideas. So we have a food options guide that I'll send you to in our recap that goes over a lot more. But these are some fantastic combo foods that can pair protein and fat, protein and carbs, and then a protein, a carb, and a fat. So creating balanced snacks. We want to make sure that we're including protein in all of these. You can see that it's in every single section. So some examples are the whole eggs, hard-boiled eggs. Those are going to be your protein and fat. You're getting that fat from the center, that protein from the exterior, the white. Nuts and nuts butters, those have protein and fats in them. Egg whites and avocado, we're adding that protein component with a good, which really is a fiber-filled fat source. So really thinking about these are all going to be foods that are going to keep us full for a long time too. And a lot of these are easy to have on hand. Having edamame, chickpeas, some of these bars like the RX bar, having Greek yogurt on hand, really, really beneficial to have some of these. Okay. So now protein powders. And I know we had a conversation about whey, soy, and plant-based proteins. So although our goal to eat whole foods is not always possible, we have crazy lives, so we need to expand our options sometimes to some high quality protein powders. And they definitely have a place in a balanced meal plan. We don't need to rely on them. Some people don't use them, but some people use them as a tool, and that's 100% okay. When consuming any protein supplement, there's a couple things that we want to make sure that we're looking for though. Please always be aware that not all are created equally. So look for minimal ingredients, and watch for the stamped tested label. The key things that you want to look for with that are third-party tested. Two of the main brands are going to be NSF certified and Informed Choice. Those are telling you that this company who made this product has also spent the time to get it tested to ensure that what they say they're putting in it is what they're actually putting in it. You want to watch out for the added sugars and other ingredients such as flavorings that aren't necessarily found in whole food forms. Whey protein is the most common due to its and most recommended due to its properties. So it is a lot more bioavailable. When consuming whey protein after workouts, it has great benefits for muscle growth and repair. It can also help suppress our appetite because of that satiety purpose. When we are consuming protein powders, the ideal window is about an hour after our workout for the greatest absorption. And when we think about protein powders, we want to think about like how frequently we should be consuming them. Each person's goals are different, which means their protein needs might be different. So they might need one shake, they might need no shakes, they might need 1 to 2 shakes per day to just kind of help them get to their goals. The main components you'll be missing with certain protein powders are like the different amino acid profiles. So just making sure that we're not relying solely on protein powders, that we're getting a whole food balanced diet to get all those other nutrients in. If you're eating processed foods, you won't yield the same benefits from protein powders as eating whole foods first. So focusing on those is the priority. So we want to focus on those lean proteins, those animal and plant-based proteins, add in some good quality protein powders, and minimize those overly processed foods. Before I go on, let's talk a little bit about soy and other plant-based proteins. So first and foremost, it all depends on your health goal. You can meet your protein goals with all of these. And there's companies that make just whey-based. With whey proteins, you're going to get, there's casein, there's isolate, there's just standard whey. Isolate is going to be a faster digesting, faster absorbing. Casein is a slow digesting or slow absorbing. So you'll see a lot of people who are trying to gain mass or bulk, they'll do like casein products so that they can repair overnight or slowly digest. A lot of the products that you see on the market are going to be an isolate just because it's faster absorbing to repair after your workout. There's soy-based protein powders, which are fantastic as well. So if you are not someone who eats animal-based products, like a vegan, soy might be a great option for you. There's other plant-based products as well. There's ones that use pea-based protein. There's products that blend them all up. Different ones are going to have different amino acid profiles. A lot of the protein powders, you don't have to necessarily worry about making sure it's a complete because they're adding in all those amino acids to make it a complete protein powder for the most part. So the biggest thing, whey is going to be is like our gold standard, but that doesn't mean that the other options aren't good. And that's only because it's a complete protein source. But you can find soy protein, you can find other plant-based proteins that are just as good, just as clean. Some people digest them better. Some people don't digest these whey protein powders very well. So it's really dependent on you and how you absorb, digest, feel overall. All right, so now that we've unpacked those tips, we want to find balance with our plant-based diet and focus on those, and our whole food-based diet and focus on our 3 principles that we always bring up and talk about. So, number 1, focus on whole foods first. We should start by choosing whole food options and less processed foods packed with sodium and fat and sugar. And a simple way to start is by just using that plate method that we talked about. Number 2, focus on balance of macronutrients. So when we say the balance, we mean that our meals and our snacks, we want to have protein, carbohydrates, and fats in those. So pairing each meal and snack with all 3 of the macronutrients helps keep us fuller for longer. Most people feel their best when they're fueling their body. I know if I'm not fueling my body properly, or if I don't get a great lunch, or if I'm missing something, my energy tanks. So something really, really important to kind of focus on and just reflect. Like if you feel like your energy's dumping, look back at what you ate. Did you eat a balanced meal? Are we missing certain things that we can add to it? And then number 3, limiting the number of processed carbs and sugar. Just a reminder, we want to aim for no more than 6 teaspoons or 24 grams for women and no more than 9 teaspoons or about 36 grams for men. And the average person consumes 150 pounds of sugar per year. So that's 46 teaspoons a day. So thinking about that, what ways can we reduce all of that sugar intake? Now, to wrap up, I hope you have a little bit better understanding of protein and how it's super essential for us to achieve our weight and just overall health goals. With the 3 tips that we shared today, I'd like you to take a moment and just kind of think about your day. So, what proteins and meals are we including in snacks? Is the 25 grams including added sugar? That is just added sugar. So don't think about that for like whole fruits or like natural sources of sugar. We just want 25 grams or less of added sugar per day. Um, but with that, so think about how we're including our protein throughout our day. Where can we optimize? Remember, we don't have to be perfect, but what area do we feel like we're lacking with our protein intake and how can we improve that? And then what's a protein that you're willing to try to incorporate in your diet that you haven't? To increase how much we're getting in and helping us get to those goals. I know for me, probably one of the hardest areas is breakfast. So I prioritize making sure I'm getting protein first in my breakfast, and then I add a lot of fruit to help balance out my fiber. And that keeps me really full for a long time. Recently, I've been doing like a turkey sausage with some Greek yogurt and some berries, and that's been really, really satisfying. I know a couple of you guys are talking right now. Or typing in. So is it true that eating protein first or veggies lowers the glycemic impact of sugar and carbs? Yeah. So protein and fiber make it harder for like they slow down digestion. So if we eat a yogurt with fruit and nuts, our blood sugar is going to be cruising. If we eat one of those yogurts that has like the sugar added to it and the they have like those candies that you can pour on top, the flip tops. Your blood sugar is going to spike. You're not going to get that stable energy. Same thing with other foods. If you just focus on a sugar food, your blood sugar is going to spike. But if you add in a protein source, a fiber source, it's going to help stabilize. Something that we do even at dinner time with my kids, if we're adding in a treat, is we include it in our dinner meal because now our blood sugars are stable. So if we have a little cookie or a piece of cake, we are eating it alongside our protein and our fiber. So one, it takes the special dessert away. So we're not focusing on that. We're just incorporating it into a meal, but it also helps reduce our blood sugar effect from it. Um, while Cheyenne's typing, I'm going to talk about this question really quick. So a lot of people think getting too much protein in is going to make us bulky. Not going to happen. Much of today's consumption of this food group is everything in moderation. So when consuming about a third to fourth of your plate of protein, it's going to really help just balance out and fuel those energy stores and build that lean muscle mass. But there is overconsumption of everything. So if we're overeating too much of anything, we're going to store fat. And then, okay, so Cheyenne, before we go to this next question, I have the most trouble getting in protein during lunch. Could a protein shake help as a meal? Or what are your suggestions with the protein shakes? Absolutely. So if you're someone who eats on the go, it's hard to have that protein source with your lunch. A protein shake can definitely come in handy. What's a typical lunch for you? Like, what does that look like? Anything you can get your hands on. Yeah, so I mean if you are just someone who's on the go and needs to grab something fast, You can grab a ready-to-drink protein shake or make your own through a powder. And then if you grab a fruit, now we have a protein and a fiber source that might not keep you, that's more of a snack. So if you add in a healthy fat with that, or if you add in a good quality fiber source with that, that's going to help satisfy you and keep you full. Um, if you like salads, doing a salad, if you're not someone who wants to put meat on their salad, having that with a protein shake can really help. Or even doing like an adult Lunchable. So you can have a couple different items in there, grab a protein shake, and now you're balancing things out. So you can make like almost like an adult charcuterie board, Lunchable type thing, easy grab and go. The other thing that a lot of people are doing lately is they make those Chobani, I think 30 grams of protein yogurts. So you can drink that in the morning, grab like 2 hard-boiled eggs, and now we're starting to balance things out. We're missing our fiber component if we just do the protein yogurt and the hard-boiled eggs. So add in a handful of or a cup of berries. Now we've balanced out our meal and it's simple. We're on the go, we're moving. So there's so many quick options that we can do. If there's any other questions, please type them in. I'm going to address this one because a lot of people ask me this is, will a higher protein diet harm my kidneys? So while you should be working with a doctor or a dietitian if you have chronic kidney disease, because you want a specific protein amount with that, we do have to be mindful. If we don't have kidney issues, you don't need to really worry about it. But if we do have some kidney issues to start with, we want to be mindful of how much we're actually consuming because it's generally a little bit lower than what the general public is going to consume. And making sure you're consuming enough water can also help just with our kidney health in general. So making sure that we're hydrated. Okay, so those are kind of the main questions that I have. I wanted to share a couple other resources, and I will leave these in our meeting minutes too. So if you have more questions, let me know. But here are, let me show this one. So I know, Tanya, you asked about like bean proteins and different things initially. This is a great plant-based resource. So if you're looking to incorporate more plants into your diet, but want to know like which are the best protein-rich sources, how can I really balance this out? This is a great one because it shows us the protein, the carbs, the fat, and the fiber. So you can kind of see, and this is based on about 6 ounces of a cooked portion. So there's black bean burgers, there's tofu, seitan, natto, there's all these great options. And it continues to go down. I know nutritional yeast, this is a fantastic option and it's filled with B vitamins. You can put it on popcorn and it tastes like Parmesan cheese a little bit. But those yogurts, so if you're someone who struggles with getting an animal-based proteins, this is a fantastic resource for you because you can see how much you're getting in. And then here's vegetables. So if you're really trying to fill up and get those protein needs, check this out. So peas, snow peas, spinach, all these amazing sources of vegetables are adding to your protein numbers. So really beneficial to get these in. And then here are some of those protein powders. So we talked a little bit about soy protein. We talked about pea protein a little bit, some of the other protein source. Tanya, I know we talked about spirulina powder a little bit previously in our emails. So this is a lot. I don't expect anyone to be consuming this much, but it's a good source of protein. Peanut butter, hemp protein, and then all these lentils, edamame, one of my favorite ways to get in protein in a meal, add fiber, add volume, throw it onto salads and stuff. Super beneficial. Is soy still bad for men, especially with those prostate issues? I think that all depends. There's a lot of soy has been kind of debunked with a lot of those things, but it's always something to be mindful of and talk to your specific healthcare provider about to see if we need to be mindful of it or not. But yeah, all these are fantastic sources. You do with the plant-based need to be mindful of the carbs, but you can see they're also fiber rich. So they're great sources of getting in that fiber, getting in those good quality, low glycemic carbs, and those high quality proteins. So lots and lots and lots and lots of options that we can. I'll send this out to you guys as well. And then one more resource that I'm going to share really quickly is this one. So if we are going plant-based and we want some tools onto how to make that, your plate method looks a little bit different because most of those plant-based protein sources are packed with carbohydrates as well. So we're aiming for about a third of our plate of protein, a third of our plate of the starches, and then a third of plate of our vegetables. And here are some great whole food plant-based proteins to choose from, and then some great combo foods and just some different ways to kind of incorporate those plant-based meals if you want to go more plant-based or do like a meatless Tuesday. Some fantastic resources. Awesome. Now, any other questions about protein? I know that's a lot of information kind of crammed into a little bit of time, and there's so many different things that we can go into on protein. So what questions do you have? Well, you sent a copy. Yes. So in my meeting minutes that I send out, kind of going over a lot of this stuff of what we talked about and the recaps, I'll attach these in. How much fish per week is okay? Really, I don't think there's necessarily an upper limit. You want to make sure that you're not getting too much fat. So if you're eating salmon, but those are always good quality. So you're just looking at those calories and everything. So if it fits into your diet and you love fish, you could eat fish every single day. Is green Wise chicken sausage okay? That one I need to look up. Let's see. And this will be, let me actually share. So let's look at this because it's always good to look at different things together so you guys can see what I see when I'm looking at products and how we can learn more about the labels and what we're looking at. So let me share this. Okay, so if it's this one that you're talking about, which I've used this. So sausage sounds bad, not sure if it's okay. So yeah, I use chicken sausage all the time. And then what you want to do, are they going to show us? So first, on this one, you can go down and you can look at the ingredients. So there's chicken. It contains less than 2% of salt, spices, including pepper and fennel, potassium chloride. That's going to help with just preserving sugar, vinegar, lemon juice concentrate, paprika, natural flavors, garlic powder stuffed with natural pork casing. So it has just the pork casing. But I mean, you can read every single ingredient in that. So that's fantastic. That's always a good key is can you pronounce every ingredient? So now let's look at the nutrition. So there's 5 per, so it looks like it's about 1 link. Is that what it? Yeah, there's 5 sausages. So it's 1 link per serving. We're getting in 5 grams of fat, only 1 gram of saturated fat, a little bit of cholesterol, sodium's in a good place. We're getting in 1 gram of carb and 17 grams of protein. So overall, this is a lean protein source. 17 grams of protein isn't going to quite hit our 25, but if you incorporate it with other of those plant-based rich proteins, now we're starting to really get a good quality protein rich meal in. If you are someone who struggles with sodium levels or cardiovascular disease, you might want to watch this if you're going to eat more than one, or what you're pairing with it. But otherwise, this is a fantastic option. It's a lean protein, so great, great choice. Does anyone have any other sources that they want to look at? or any other questions? No? Awesome. Well, if you have more questions, please feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about them. Um, there's so many things that we can go into about protein. This is just kind of scraping the surface of it. So if there's anything you think of after this call, shoot me an email and we can make sure to incorporate it into discussion. But I hope you guys enjoyed this call and I hope you learned a little bit more about protein and just some extra tips as to how you can help meet your goals.